Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, and today I'm sitting here wondering how in the hell 2025 is already halfway over, or by the time you're watching this, a little more than halfway over. That's right. As of, I think, July 2nd, we are now closer to 2050 than we are 2000. Feel old yet? I certainly do. But the perfect way to distract us from the existential dread of aging and the inevitable death coming for us all, which I'll get to in this video with some of the movies I talk about. Let's talk about my 10 favorite horror movies of the year so far. This is just a comprehensive list of the 10 horror movies I have enjoyed the most in the year 2025 up till now. Now, I will still do my big top 10 horror movies of the year at the end of the year. Some of these movies you may see again. There may be movies that are out now that I maybe haven't seen yet that will end up on that top 10 for the year. This is just based on what has come out so far that I have seen. There's a little bit of everything in it. It's been an interesting year. I feel like, full disclosure, I feel like there was a bit more to choose from in previous years, or maybe I'm just getting pickier. That being said, the ones I've chosen here, I really, really did enjoy, and I'll get into why. So without further ado, here are my top 10 horror movies of 2025 so far. Number 10, Night of the Zupocalypse. Most of you probably have never even heard of this one. It played in theaters for maybe a week. I took my daughter to see it for her birthday. It came out her birthday weekend. And what a weird, fun, gateway horror movie for kids based on a Clive Barker concept. Now, his idea, full disclosure, Clive Barker did not actually work on this movie. He just came up with the concept of a sort of zombie apocalypse set in a zoo. And it feels like, what if Madagascar was crossed with Color Out of Space and Night of the Living Dead? But it's still a PG kids movie. It's got David Harbour, and I love that it doesn't shy away or hold back from being a monster movie and a zombie movie. But my kids, ages 6 and almost 4, really, really enjoyed it and had fun with it. And, like, to them, this is like a scary movie that they can still enjoy, but isn't gonna, like, traumatize them for life. And it was so I went into this with 0 expectation and wound up being so surprised with just how much I enjoyed it, and even more surprised that no one had heard of it. I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere. I don't like, literally, it was playing at the Regal one day, and I don't even think I saw any showtimes the following weekend. But I'm glad I saw it. If it is streaming somewhere, definitely check it out. Number 9, Hell of a Summer. Impressive for Finn Wolfhard's co-directorial debut. What I really liked about Hell of a Summer, though, we are inundated with slashers these days. They are a dime a dozen, much like they were in the 80s. But what Hell of a Summer did that I thought was really, really interesting, it pays homage to many slashers that came before. It is self-aware, but in a purely subtextual sense. I think, and I'll probably do a full video on this topic at some point, I think we've reached our limit for meta slashers. As much as I love Scream and everything that came after it, it feels like every single slasher movie today and since then has to be self aware, has to be meta. The characters have to be knowledgeable about horror movies and quoting them nonstop. And Hell of a Summer, while it's set in modern day, because they have smartphones, it feels the most spiritually like it came from that era. So on the one hand, it's not really trying to reinvent the slasher wheel, but its recreation of the wheel we know and love is really entertaining. It has great brutal gory kills. It has a lot of humor, but not it doesn't go too far with the we know this is a horror movie and the characters know it too. It's just self-aware enough without making me roll my eyes like, "Oh, another meta." Like, meta slashers are great, but at a certain point, we've deconstructed it to death. Number 8, 28 years later. I know. A lot of people probably have this closer to number 1. I thought it was gonna be closer to number 1. It makes narrative and creative story choices that I can't necessarily agree with, and yes, that final sequence at the end is jarring, but all that being said, it is masterfully shot, acted, edited, styled. Everything about it is an assault on the senses and puts you right there in the moment, in the terror, and one of the best coming of age horror movies I've ever seen that just so happens to be set in the backdrop of the apocalypse. I love I forget the kid's names in the movie, but he's our protagonist and we're seeing the end of the world through his eyes and sort of the history of England and Scotland having to like reinvent itself in the wake of this apocalypse. Couple that with Danny Boyle's aggressive directing, and I mean aggressive. The fact that they shot it on iPhones to like really put you there in the thick of it. There's so much this movie does right, and it was such a breath of fresh air. And more than that, it is so poignant and almost heartbreaking. And it's rare that a movie does all those things. And this probably would be like top 3 on my list if it didn't do those creative story choices that just really frustrated and annoyed me, but it's still worthy of being on this list. Number 7, Death of a Unicorn. I know, come at me for putting this above 28 years later. I had a lot of fun with Death of a Unicorn. I love that it's this satirical comedy that turns into Jurassic Park. I love the practical unicorn effects. The CGI ones don't necessarily hold up. And as much as I'm tired of the Jenna Ortega shtick, where she does the same thing every time, I think her performance in Death of a Unicorn, I enjoyed more than her similar performances in other movies and TV shows where she's kind of just doing the same thing. Paul Rudd, I think, is a big reason I really enjoyed it as much as, I did. He's funny, but still has that like everyman quality to him. And I love how the movie just gets weirder and weirder and weirder as you go on. And I know it was divisive because I think it was too funny for people that wanted horror, and it was too brutal and gory for people that thought it was a comedy. I'm a sick, twisted person, and I love that it did both. Number 6, Presence. I heard a lot of people say that they found this movie boring, and fair enough, fair enough. The whole movie is basically this like mysterious ghost that we are seeing through POV just wandering around the house. It's not dissimilar from a novel I wrote a decade ago that was about demonic possession from the point of view of the demon. Although when I saw the movie, I'm like, oh, this is nothing like my novel other than the very base concept being similar. No, what I really liked about Presence was, yes, it's a slow burn. Yes, I know that's not everybody's thing, but it captured the inherent tragedy that is every ghost story. That behind every supernatural ghost story, there is tragedy. There is this melancholy, this horrible, sad, gut wrenching event happened, and it just captures that mood. It didn't scare me necessarily, but that final scene, if you know what I'm talking about, if you've seen the movie, that final shriek at the end, it chilled me to my core. And I was thinking about it for weeks after I saw it. Not because it was scary, but because it was haunting and gut wrenching and tragic. It made me feel something that a movie, not just horror movie, any movie in general, has not made me feel in a very long time. Number 5, Final Destination, Bloodlines. This is the one that I thought was not going to be anywhere near this top 10 list. If we're going by the last few Final Destination movies, they've had a very hit or miss, with the last few being misses. That being said, Bloodlines is amazing. because they found a way to kind of add to the mythology without necessarily retconning it. It's just self-aware enough. It's just funny enough and just clever enough that it gives us this amazing wild ride of death while also injecting some new mythos into the franchise and giving us what is arguably, in my opinion, the greatest opening disaster sequence of the entire franchise. Couple that with Tony Todd's poignant final performance in a scene that I'm told he wrote a lot of it himself and knew he was dying when he wrote it. What a way to close the chapter on his involvement in this franchise, as well as on his career. All that together brings me a movie that I enjoyed so much more than I thought I would, and that I think is, and it's rare that I say this, it's on par with, and I might even like it more than the original because it knows what it wants to do more than that original does, and it is a more confident movie in itself than that original movie was. Number 4, Bring Her Back. What a movie. If you thought Sally Hawkins gave a strange performance in The Shape of Water, you ain't seen nothing yet. Come to find, that's only the second weirdest thing she does involving water, which if you've seen Bring Her Back, you know exactly what I'm talking about. On the one hand, I feel like this movie is basically just child abuse, the movie, and I say that with the darkest sense of humor. Don't come at me. But it is so bleak, it is so brutal, and it is so just dangerous and cruel to children. But it's entertaining because of Sally Hawkins, because she never lets up, and her performance is so just off the rails and whimsical and strange and weird that she from the very beginning of the movie, her goal is to make the audience uncomfortable, and that she does. Couple that with incredibly bleak storytelling and just a brutal onslaught on not just your senses but your emotions, and Bring Her Back is that weird indie underground Australian horror hit. I don't like it quite as much as Talk to Me, the previous movie that the Philippou brothers did, but it's close. Number 3, Companion. I was really upset and frustrated that the trailer gave away the twist, because what a twist. Like, it's a first act twist, but what a twist to know what this movie is really about, which spoilers I will be getting into. I kind of love how this is the horror slasher version of the movie Her, and that it takes this concept of AI and of human emotion and relationships and how we navigate that in a world that has AI and in a world where we humans feel less connected to each other. And it explores it in a really clever, fun, creative way. It's hilarious. It's entertaining, but when it needs to be brutal and tense and thrilling, it doesn't sacrifice those in favor of the comedy. It uses its comedy to enhance those scenes all around. I love that basically the one bot turns into the Terminator, but most of all, I love Sophie Thatcher's performance. I loved her in Heretic, but in Companion, we really see her shine as a character that comes to terms realizing what she is, but then growing beyond her programming, so to speak, and becoming so much more than she ever thought she could be. Number 2, The Monkey. This one has sat with me for a while, and it's one that I can't really get out of my head. And I think the reason for it is the monkey, just in a nutshell, satirizes the existential dread of the inevitability of death. And it does so in a way that is kind of terrifying, but also really, really funny. It's such an absurd premise based on the Stephen King book, but it takes that premise and makes you believe it. It takes family dynamics, it takes sibling rivalry, and it puts it all together in this movie that makes you laugh at how uncomfortable it feels knowing that we will all die one day. And I think that's why it stuck with me so much. It also has great performances all around. I knew when I heard this was Osgood Perkins' follow-up from Longlegs. I love that it's not another Longlegs was very bleak and brutal and kind of tense and Silence of the Lambs-esque. The monkey's hilarious. It shows that he can have a sense of humor about these really dark subject matters, and the way the brother's like, "Well, stop turning on, stop hitting it." Oh, I never thought of that. And every single performance, even supporting characters like Rohan Campbell, who's only in a couple scenes, everyone in it really shines, and I kind of love everything about it. And finally, number one, Sinners. All right, let me jump on the bandwagon and be like the 50th person on the internet, 500th at this point, to sing the praises of Sinners. But it's a masterpiece, and I love that we recently found out that they literally bought the costumes from Marvel that they were gonna use for Blade, and it's like, this is the Blade movie we wanted, but I'm kinda glad that we got this original vampire movie instead of an adaptation of Blade. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that directors like Ryan Coogler do better making their own original movies than working with studios being micromanaged to death. Because if the result is Sinners, let's have more of this. Where to even begin? The way that the movie takes ideas of race, class, the history of different pecking orders, and the way like this group look down on this group, look down on this group, but then this group feels superior because of this group, and the way that it just infuses music into all that. Normally, I'm not a fan of like surrealist filmmaking, but the long take of like all the different genres and time periods of music at that at that club is amazing. It was, and I use this for very specifically. When I saw this movie in IMAX, it was an ethereal experience. And I don't say that or get that very often with anything really. Sinners, everything about it I love. The dual performances from Michael B. Jordan, the vampire horror that's actually scary. It makes vampires scary again. It's like a From Dusk Till Dawn, but it goes so much harder and so much further than From Dusk Till Dawn ever did. The way it's shot, I saw it in IMAX. I was there when they're about to fight the vampires, and you literally see the aspect ratio change and get wider as they prepare for this showdown, amping up the tension and expectation of what's to come. I can't sing the praises of Sinners enough, and I have a feeling that unless something else really wows me later this year, I'm probably going to be putting Sinners at number one of my top 10 movies of the year when I do it, right around New Year's Eve of this year. But hey, this is just my list. These are just my thoughts. These were my top 10 favorite horror movies of the year so far. Please let me know in the comments what have been some of your favorite horror movies this year. Let me know. I'd love to talk about it. Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up being stalked by vampires playing weird but genuinely catchy Irish folk music as they attempt to convert you into their hive mind that has centuries of wisdom but terror to it. And as always, every day is Halloween.